Well, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to see everyone here today. It's good to see Miss Pat with us back.
Good to be here.
Good to see you. We're in Luke, the 19th chapter, starting there with about verse 28. Luke, the 19th chapter, and we'll start there with about verse 28. And after he had said these things, he was going on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. When he approached Bethphage and Bethany, near the mount that is called Olivet, he sent two disciples, saying, "Go into the village ahead of you. There as you enter, you will find a coat tied on which no one has yet been on. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, 'Why are you untying it?' you shall say, 'The Lord has need of it.'" Okay, let's stop and think here for just a second. Here Jesus told two of his disciples, go into one of the towns, and you're going to find a colt there that's tied up. Okay? That no one has ever sat on. No one has ever rode. What does that tell you?
Crazy.
Huh?
It's crazy.
Well, he's not trained. We'll just put it that way. Okay? We'll be nice about it. He's not trained. Be ridden. Not brought to ride. But he also says, if anyone asks, "Why are you untying it?" you shall say, "The Lord has need of it." So those who were sent, verse 32, went away and found it just as he had told them. As they were untying the coat, its owners said to them, "Why are you untying the coat?" They said, "The Lord has need of it." And they brought it to Jesus, and they threw their coats on the coat and put Jesus on it. All right, let's stop right there. There's a couple of things. Here they came, they found it just like what the Lord had said. There's a coat tied there. And so they untied it, began to untie it, was leaving with it, and the owner said, "What? Why are you untying the coat? Why are you leaving with that?" As most owners of something would. Okay? And it says, "The Lord has need of it." That's what they said. Did you notice there was nothing else said? The owner said, "I'll be if you're going to take it." Because that's how we would be. If someone came and was taking something of yours. But it says, "The Lord has need of it." Then right after that it says, they brought it to Jesus.
Do you think
Something
the
to think
owners knew
about.
who the Lord was?
Huh?
Do you think the owners knew who the Lord was?
Very possibly could be. Very possibly could be. And the second part there. They brought it to Jesus, and they threw their coats on the coat and put Jesus on it. What happens to most coats that you put something on their back?
A lot of shows, you know,
Yeah. They're not going to settle for that, I can tell you that. Yeah.
They're gonna cut it off.
Yep. I'd hate to ride an unbroke coat with not a cinch on the saddle.
Yeah. See, they just threw a coat, just a blanket, just basically like a blanket on it. Okay?
Well, most of them would have bolted when you put that
Yeah,
blanket on
they
there.
wouldn't have stood for that.
You
Yeah.
gotta remember, he made a donkey talk.
Huh?
You gotta remember, he made a donkey talk.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So they put Jesus on it, verse 36. As he was going, they were spreading their coats on the road. As soon as he was approaching near the distant Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of the disciples began to praise God joyfully with a loud voice for all the miracles which they had seen. You know, this is, you talk about, well, this is just one of those things that happened. All these things were they not prophesied? Yeah. Throughout the old scriptures, they would prophesy. This is going to happen just like it did. And here all these people were praising God joyfully with a loud voice for all the miracles they had done. In verse 38, shouting, "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in earth and glory in the highest." Now some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." Why did he want them to rebuke them? Why did the Pharisees, what set them off? That you need to rebuke your disciples. You tell them to hush.
Called him a king. Blessed be the king.
Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. What were they calling Jesus?
The king.
It says, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." But Jesus answered, listen to this, "I tell you, if they become silent, the stones will cry out." Which means what?
Story's gonna go to out.
It's going to get out. You're not going to stop it. You're not going to stop it. Okay? When he approached Jerusalem, he saw the city and wept over it. Saying, "If you had known in this day, even you, the things which make for peace. But now they have been hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you when your enemies will throw up a barricade against you and surround you and hem you in on every side. And they will level you to the ground and your children within you. And they will not leave you one stone upon another, because you did not recognize the time of your visitation." You have to stop and think about this. What's he talking about here? Talking to the city of Jerusalem. What is he talking about? The destruction that's going to happen. Later on in history, years down the road, that's exactly what happened to the town of Jerusalem. They were utterly destroyed.
Is that about 78?
I believe that sounds pretty close. Yeah, something in that. And it happened just as Jesus described it here.
Yeah, it's not that far down the road.
It wasn't that many years. And a lot of these people probably would have seen it. Yeah. Seen it happen. But you know, they had disobeyed God. How long have they disobeyed God off and on? Have you stopped and thought about that?
Since
Since
Noah.
they came out of Egypt?
I mean, Moses.
Yeah, since they came out of Egypt, it's just been off and on. Remember when they came out of Egypt, what happened?
Golden calf.
Disbelief, and it cost them 40 years wandering in the wilderness. That's just right after they came out of Egypt. And it just kept on throughout time. Kept on throughout time. Now, verse 45. Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out those who were selling, saying to them, "It is written, and my house shall be the house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves." Now let's stop and think about what was going on here. Here we are at the temple and the surrounding area around the temple. People needed to have sacrifices at that time. So that's where the animals came in. Okay? But these people here, what were they doing? What were they doing?
Hey, Bill, can you imagine if we brought cattle to church?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they were charging exorbitant prices.
You have to remember, they were taking advantage of people. Okay? Because some people would have to come a long way, couldn't bring the sacrifice that they needed. So that's where they would purchase what they needed. Okay? These people here are making it a racket. They were making a killing, we might say. Not only that, when they were, it was just, they didn't think about the worship part of it. All they thought about was profit. Did you hear what I said? They didn't think about the worship part. All they thought about was the money. Can that be related to anything today? Just let that soak in a little bit, guys.
Hey, Phil, that reminds me of the verse. It says, lay up treasures in heaven instead of.
It's true. Now, you talk about these men that he drove out. Of course, we have in other Gospels that a little more detail about what he had done. But it said when they talked about den of thieves or den of robbers, that tells you the kind of people that he was driving out. They were robbing these people, but they were taking advantage, like you said, exorbitant prices for these things. And he tried to clean the temple. Now in verse 47, and he was teaching daily in the temple, but the chief priests and the scribes and the leading men among the people were trying to destroy him. And they could not find anything that they might do. For all the people were hanging on every word he said. Now you stop and think about this. Here the leadership of the Jewish people. Why were they so against Jesus? Why were they just set on destroying him? Have you ever thought about that? Why? Because we've sung time and time again, they sought out a way to get him, sought out a way to get Jesus. Why were they so set against him?
He was going to change their entire world.
He was going to take everything away from them as far as their power, their authority, and their prestige. Change all tradition that they've ever had, because it was more than just the law. Because they had put so many traditions in effect. This was going to take everything away from them. Okay? So that was one of the reasons, that's the main reasons they were so trying to destroy him. But the people were hanging on every word that Jesus said. Why did they not want to do this in front of all the people?
They turned.
They're afraid the people would turn on them. Yeah. They were afraid they would be turned on. Now, starting there in verse 1 of chapter 20, just continuing on. On one of the days, while he was teaching the people in the temple and preaching the gospel, the chief priests and scribes and the elders confronted him. And they spoke, saying to him, "Tell us by what authority you are doing these things. And who is the one who gave you this authority?" Because you have to remember, who were these men? Who were these people? They were the authority of the Jewish nation. They're wondering, who gave you this authority, Jesus? Look at his response in verse 3. And Jesus answered and said to them, "I will also ask you a question, and you tell me. Was the baptism of John from heaven or from men?" They reasoned among themselves, saying, "If we say from heaven," he will say, "Well, why did you not believe him?" But if we say from men, all the people will stone us to death. For they were convinced that John was a prophet. Do you see the mess they're in? They say that it was from heaven. And Jesus said, well, why didn't you follow after him? Why didn't you believe him? But they say from men. You just stop and think about this. The question that Jesus asked them, they had no answer. They had no answer. So they answered that they did not know where it came from. And Jesus said to them, nor will I tell you by what authority I do these things. This is my mind working. That Jesus might just smart it off to them, Well, later I'll tell you. Jesus had to be fed up with these people. Because you talk about a thorn in your side, they have been a thorn in his side all the way through. He knew they were trying to trap him. He knew them. So neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things. And he began to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard and rented it out to vine growers, and went on a journey for a long time. At the harvest time, he sent a slave to the vine growers so that they would give him some of the produce of the vineyard. But the vine growers beat him and sent him away empty-handed. And he proceeded to send another slave, and they beat him also and treated him shamefully and sent him away empty-handed. And he proceeded to send a third. And this one they also wounded and cast out. The owner of the vineyard said, well, what shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him. But when the vine growers saw him, they reasoned with one another. And they said, this is the heir. Let us kill him so that the inheritance will be ours. So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy these vine growers, and he will give the vineyard to others. When they heard it, they said, may it never be. But Jesus looked at them and said, what then is this that is written? The stone will be, which is the builders rejected, this became the chief cornerstone. Everyone who falls on the stone will be broken into pieces. But on whomever it falls, it will scatter to him like dust. Did these people understand this parable that Jesus had just told? All they thought was a story was, may it never be, may that never happen. That's terrible. But let's look at the big picture here. What is he really talking about? Is Jesus really talking about vine growers or vineyards? What's he really talking about?
The kingdom.
The kingdom. But just look at this all the way through. You can look at it this way. What has God done throughout time? He sent them what? The prophets. What did they do to them people? Most of them they killed, but they treated them terribly. Okay? Then you come down and look again. What else did he send? Who else did he send? The prophets and then John. So now he said, well, I'm going to send my son. What did they do to him? You talk about treating bad. Threw him out of the garden. They did that to Jesus, didn't they? Then they killed him. They had no idea what they was talking about. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken into pieces. But on whomever it falls, it will scatter him like dust. They have any idea. They have no idea who Jesus was and what they were getting ready to do. We talked about it Wednesday night, about when the Jews, when Pilate gave them the opportunity to turn Jesus loose. And they said, let his blood be upon us and our children. Some of the old versions say our children's children. They had no idea what they were talking about. No idea. But some think they've probably paid the price ever since. Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. Verse 19 now. The scribes and the chief priests tried to lay hands on him that very hour, but they feared the people, for they understood that he spoke this parable against them. It sunk in just a little bit. Hey, he's talking about us. And they wanted to get a hold of Jesus, but they what? Feared the people. So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be righteous in order that they might catch him in some statement so they could deliver him to the rule and the authority of the governor. You mean they sent spies back then? People that pretended to be something they weren't? Yeah. We've always heard the old analogy. People will do anything for $1. That's what happened here. These people here was told to do this. More than likely they were paid to do this. They'll do it. They'll do it. They questioned him saying, Teacher, we know that you speak and teach correctly, and you are not partial to any, but you teach the way of God in truth. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? You know, you think about what they've just said here. You talk about buttering them up just a little bit beforehand. Teacher, we know you teach everything correctly. We know. But can you answer this question for me? Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? But he detected their trickery and said to them, Show me a denarius, a coin. Whose likeness is inscription does it have? They say, well, it's Caesar's. And he said to them, Then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. Look at the question that they gave. Look at his answer. Look at his answer. So what does that mean? Yes, you have to pay taxes. Yeah, you can't get out of it. No. Render to Caesar what is Caesar's. Render to God what is God's. Our problem today is that we may not render to either one like we should. We don't render to God what is really truly God's.
And Phil, the Bible tells us we must obey the rules of the
Laws of the land, yeah.
As long as it doesn't contradict God's will.
That's right. That's right. And they were unable to catch him in a saying in the presence of the people. And being amazed at his answer, they become silent. They couldn't catch him in a trick at that point. They couldn't do nothing, so they just kept silent. We'll stop right there, and then we'll take up next week there in verse 27. Thank you for your comments.